So happy Tuesday, everyone. Glad that we are here in Satsang. And uh, so today, so before we go into meditation, Natalie had asked about the chapter 11, which talks about the householder and person who, uh, you know, uh, gives up the family life. In seeking God. And so, one of the chapters in the 28 chapter book that Guru Maharaj wrote on his own experiences goes into that. Obviously, the translation, I think, is quite a few pages, but I'm trying to think if I can create some parts of it, at least, which are um, worth getting into. Uh, so very brief, how he introduces the chapter. I'll go over here. so, um, so he starts with, uh, you know, and this is think of this. We're talking several decades ago, if not, several decades ago, mostly, Indian context. But I think it is relevant to this day and culture as much, I think. So he starts that many people today carry a deeply rooted assumption that real worship or spiritual growth isn't possible while living a family life. And I mean, where you can achieve really high states of, um, spiritual growth, vertically climb to the top of the pyramid that we have talked about several times here. So they feel that as long as they have responsibilities, work, marriage, children, bills, aging parents, they are, these are distractions enough to be in a true spiritual practice. Therefore, they cannot reach, uh, the ocean of peace, as he would call it, or, reach enlightenment, etc., or reach God. So, this belief is not only discouraging, it is profoundly misleading, he says. Because of it, even those who genuinely long um, for this inner peace don't step towards that. They keep waiting for the right time, for example, retirement, having fewer obligations, for a future moment when life becomes simpler, quote unquote. Some even spend their whole lives imagining that one day they will renounce everything and finally become spiritual. But life rarely gives us that clean exit. Problems keep arriving one after another, responsibilities continue, the years pass, and many people die just waiting and still entangled. And and I'm sorry, I'm chuckling here, but I can see a lot of people. I'm in the 60s and I've seen people in the 80s as caught up as me or worse, still believing that spirituality was never meant for someone, uh, was meant for someone else, not us. And someone else could be, people who have given up their lives in service, in living in monasteries, and so on and so forth. Um, so Guru Maharaj says the reality is very different. He says any and every human being can approach God in any condition, whether living as a householder or living apart from the family. And I think he, you know, he had, um, full. So my father with three brothers and two sisters, and um, you know, and my grandmother, uh, you know, I mean, and the entire family tree, Guru Maharaj's family tree, like deep, deep, deep in service. So anyway, so he says a human being can approach God in any condition, whether living as a householder or living apart from the family. The outer routines may differ for these two. The disciplines may not look the same, but the destination is open to all. And with right understanding, a person can fulfill the purpose of life without needing to change their external role. Um, and then he quotes Kabir Das ji, who was another saint, who uh, was, who developed a very similar practice. So the only love, no, so only love and true devotion are needed to reach God. He says, external appearances are not essential. One can attain the goal equally well, whether living at home or living in a monastery or forest or whatever. So history supports this. My grandfather writes further, in ancient records, most great sages were not solitary wanderers. They were householders. Many of the most revered seers and teachers lived within family life while reaching the highest realization and leaving behind immense spiritual guidance for those who follow. Even in later devotional traditions, several leading teachers of the path of bhakti lived as householders and still attained divine vision. And so were the so where the idea came from. So he asks, like, so where the idea came from that one must leave home to be spiritual. So over time, certain historical movements, and then he writes about those, and and so in those periods, communities likely needed full-time spiritual workers, people unburdened by household duties who could dedicate themselves entirely to teaching, traveling, and serving. And that emphasis may have been appropriate for that time and purpose, but when the same idea became a blanket rule for everyone, he says it harms ordinary people. It turns spirituality into a luxury reserved for a few rather than living path meant for all. And that is the central correction, that he says needs to happen. Do not postpone your vertical growth. Start where you are, live your responsibilities, and learn the inner art of devotion and detachment. And I was actually reading that there are householder so there was Brother Lawrence in the 17th century. So he so there is a lot talked about him. Again, he was not a priest or a scholar, but a cook and a sandal repairer, but believed in the practice of the presence of God. And then Saint Thomas More, um, he lived a life of immense worldly mess and political pressure. So he was actually Lord Chancellor of England. Okay, so there are other things that we can think of in contemporary. The next section, I think, which is more important, I think he describes any attachment is the cause of all misery. And when you start living with detachment, you become more free. And that, he says, was the core. But later on, detachment meant that you detach from family life and detach from worldly things. And he says that that's kind of a misinterpretation. It's more of, the detachment should be within our minds rather than a physical detachment that's required. So more, this is a deep topic and interesting one. So hopefully I'll sort things out a little and get some more in parts. So, but it is core to this practice that, you're busy, you have all the duties of life, but you can practice this meditation and like most of the leaders in Satsang, you can achieve, higher ground. That's what we are here for. And the whole concept is that we take, so here's one of other things that Guru Maharaj used to say, that all you do is take 1 hour aside. So 24 hours a day, take 1 hour aside for being with the transcendental energy, embodying the transcendental energy, being, and at that point, yes, be detached from the world as much as you can. And that, he says, can make a transformation that you cannot fathom right now. So that's being said, let's at least do it now. I feel the group's collective energy and being in a group like this is always wonderful, because effortlessly you go to a higher ground. And let's do that now. So eyes lightly closed and still and relaxed posture. And then feel the presence, this transcendental energy in form of light. And think of a conscious source of this transcendental energy in form of light that's entering your heart and distributing throughout your body. And you are becoming one with this light. When mind wanders away, which it will, just bring it back to this thought and this thought alone, that you are in the presence, this transcendental energy in form of light, and this light is entering your heart, which is distributing throughout your body, and you're getting completely and totally immersed in it. So any other breath work, mindful exercises and other things that you do it before or after. during this time, just embody this transcendental energy in form of light. We'll start with music that helps concentration, and then music fades away and we go deep into silent meditation. And then we transition out with music again. Let's start now. Happy Tuesday. Glad that we are here in Satsang. No pressure, just we want to share anything, comments, questions, thoughts, or if you want to continue to absorb the energy, it's even better. So Steve, Natalie, Wafame, anything, any thoughts? Right. Okay.
Good evening.
Good, good. How are you?
Very good. Yeah. It's cold up here, so I'm just trying to ride out the storm. It's better than out east, though. So,
Yeah, it was not, we kind of got saved a little. It was snowing, but nothing like the Northeast.
yeah.
I mean, it was just, I would say probably a couple of inches.
Glad you were spared. Your lecture made me think about the Buddha who kind of went down that pathway of just felt like he couldn't juggle everything. So I think it's like many things. There's many paths to God and many paths to what people
See,
have to do to pursue to find what they're looking for, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of what I just think there's a lot of different pathways, but you
no,
can
see
also
that
balance it.
the point I think Guru Maharaj was making that probably Buddha's teachings kind of moved people towards almost thinking that it's either or. Uh, I mean, yes, there are many pathways and there are many. Actually, somewhere else, he writes that, why there are so many ideologies which evolve from within, right? It's like you take Christianity, you take Hinduism, you take, I mean, it's like even Buddhism. I was reading a little bit where there are like three different, and fairly strong um, ideologies within Buddhism. One believes in the original stuff, then the other one is like a little more, so yeah. And so Guru Maharaj writes that we are so many personalities, and the way we think and what we like is different. So our path has to be different too. So yeah.
I thought of Gandhi too. Gandhi
Yeah,
was married and made it work. So
right, right. And such strong like I would not wear anything but because blah blah blah, and you take that vow and you follow through. um, it's just the resolve, and that I will not take violence, but I'll resist. And that is a very very tough uh, you know road to take. um, so yeah. But what Guru Maharaj says is that for a normal, you know, it's like married, working, or, um, you know, or anyone who's like taking care of the quote unquote, the worldly relations, the worldly things, can still continue to rise vertically and spiritually, and hence can reach higher ground. And I think not doing that only decays the society and the thought processes to a point where, you know, what we see around happens, I guess.
I was a part of a fundraiser this weekend for a group called the Jeremy Brown Foundation, and my son has Down syndrome, and this Jeremy Brown has autism, and my son used to swim with Jeremy Brown, and his mother was a single. Jeremy Brown's mother is a single parent, and their family came together. They wanted to make sure that he would always be provided for. So they started this foundation, and they run a bowling tournament. They've raised a couple $100,000, I think, that they've put back into the community for various causes. One is uh, a daycare center, which is called the Peace Academy in Fargo, and they find ambassadors, people like my son that have Down syndrome, and they try to integrate them into that community, and they practice a nurtured heart approach. And I just think, sometimes just the things that we think might take away from our spirituality, actually, those everyday things also,
Yeah.
once we embrace them and we see them, I know I'm a better person because I was the father of a child with Down syndrome. He's taught me compassion. He's taught me love. And so sometimes when we embrace those things in our personal lives, it takes us, I think, down a spiritual path and helps us
Yep.
to appreciate what we've been given, and creates a greater sense of gratitude within us too. So sometimes it's just maybe becoming aware of those things or those opportunities that present themselves to just reach out and help others and include people and lift people up. So those are some things just going through my mind.
Totally, totally. Actually, you know, I think in multiple places, both Guru Maharaj and his guru have written that, the hardships actually definitely make us grow vertically. Um, because, the amount of reflection and it's just so much of thinking, and all that goes on actually makes us better people.
I'll listen now.
So Natalie, yeah, you got me going on that chapter. Now let's see what happens with it. We'll see.
I was actually surprised about the family aspect of it because I think I was more interested about the materialism, but I can see how it's connected as well.
It's deeply connected.
I guess I didn't connect that prior to today. And for me, like what you said today almost gave me permission to seek or deepen my spirituality. I don't know. I'm coming from a place where I came from like some trauma in my family. So leaving that is opening up more doors for me. So it's almost kind of the opposite of what you said, I guess. But it's I guess it's almost necessary for me to detach and to leave my family so I can grow.
So, yeah, when, so I think we can talk more about this uh, separately, but I think this chapter is more about materialism, or family life kind of gives us almost like a um, ability or license to be materialistic. That's what is being questioned there. And just because you are in, so here it's not the family, it's more of the attachments. And what you are describing is what happens in the world, in family or otherwise, that we attach ourselves to something. And that was the part of the discussion we had around my grandfather's guru's discussion, that yes, we are worldly and we believe in living in the world the normal way, because when you try to find enjoyment within the world or the materialistic world, then what happens is that you try to attach yourself to something to gain happiness from, and then you don't find it, and then you go to the next one, then you don't find it, you go to the next one, and then you don't find it, you go to the next one, and eventually you find that there is no lasting happiness in the worldly or materialistic things. And that's when that the light bulb goes on and you actually become detached, and hence the growth happens because of that. So what you are describing is one of those situations where the worldly attachments lead to situations where you then say, no, that is not where I want to be. I want to transcend this world. I want to go to a higher place, and that's how spiritual growth happens. So
Yeah.
So what he is trying to say, though, is that even for somebody who hasn't realized that the attachments lead to misery, which is what Buddha said, and even if you continue the materialistic or worldly path, you have to get detached at some point, because you realize that peace and love and happiness is within. You first fill yourself with it, and that's what we just did. When you embody this transcendental energy, you embody the love, light, and peace. And then once you become so abundant with it that you just share with others. So unlike you know the worldly interactions lead to strange kind of experiences, but when you meet with someone who is abundant with love, light, and peace, you feel that, and you can become that too. That's the
Yeah, I love that.
And the whole idea here in this chapter is that irrespective of which phase in life or where you're busy, you can still, lift yourself up, be at a higher plane. And once you are at a higher plane, you can, pull people up too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, deep subject. I think this one, while it's very one of the core tenets of this approach, but this is not a trivial subject. Very deep and very broad in its expanse. No, but glad. I'm so glad that you actually got me to really take this chapter, and let's see what evolves out of it. Because the next, so first he describes like what renunciation really means. Because what he says is that people go from being attached to one thing here to being attached to another thing there. That's not the solution. The solution is that you, in either case, just vertically progress and get to a higher ground, become a better person, and then help others becoming better people. Yeah, more on it later. So before we wrap up, Wafame, anything on your end?
No, that was just very lovely. I like the opening, grounding conversation. I think we have a lot of daily roles and responsibilities we all hold, and just that reminder to set aside the time is just very important. So thank you for that. And it's always very good to be in community with all of you.
Yeah, same here. Very happy to be here. We're always, this is a, very, very, it's a time to, in a way, detach ourselves and uplift ourselves, but this community actually helps that process. That's the thing. Yeah. And just some of these discussions kind of make you think about various aspects of the process. Good. Thank you so much for being here, and love, light, and peace be with you. So we'll be here again in Satsang soon. See you all. Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Wafame.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie, Anita ji.